I know what you're thinking. Karsten, where the hell are you? This is not your office. This is not my beautiful wife. What is that bag? Where's all the beautiful wall art? And to tell you the truth, guys, you're never going to see that office again. I hate to say it. I have moved to Los Angeles, California. I've moved across the country. It's why I have logged close to nothing on Letterboxd for about a week now. I know all of you have been just closely watching my Letterboxd being like, when is he gonna post? We need the post. And I've just had a really crazy month so far. This has been one of the craziest few years, really. When I've mentioned moving to LA in my last few videos, I've seen a few comments being like, imagine moving to LA in 2024. And you have some points about that. If you ever go to the moving to LA subreddit, which I have frequented a few times in the last few months, if you were in my position at least and you were about to move to LA, you'd be going through hell. Frankly, it's a really bad subreddit. It's very doomy. It's very grim, especially if you're going here for film. If you move here without a clear job opportunity set up, it's quite a questionable choice to move to LA, actually, because if you didn't know, the film industry kind of going through it right now. The strikes have been over for sure, but the industry is still kind of recovering from them. Work, if you didn't know, is not exactly in tip-top shape out here. To be fair, I'm not exactly in the industry. I don't work on productions. I'm not a crew member. I sit here in this office and I yap. But still, why would you go from Chicago, which is certainly expensive, don't get me wrong, to an even more expensive city where the cost of living is so goddamn high? You could live anywhere as a YouTuber. Why would you choose LA? And this video is here to kind of talk about why I did this, how to do this, because frankly, a lot of you are probably film students or people interested in film. You may want to move to LA someday. You may be thinking about it yourself, even if the industry is kind of going through it right now and it's transitioning into whatever the next era will be. LA is still kind of, in my opinion, the central hub for film, even if not as many productions are taking place in LA for, many reasons. There isn't really a new spot, I would say. It's kind of just spread out into everywhere. You could say it's Atlanta, but not really. LA is still a place where a lot of things in the film industry happen. So let's talk about why. To answer this why question, I guess I'll just give the simplest answer, is that I just wanted to live in LA. I love movies, if you didn't know. I'm a big movie guy. And this is a big movie town outside of film. I just really love the weather here. I love how it looks. I think it's a very beautiful town. I think it's a very beautiful part of the country. I think that's pretty hard to debate. I've lived in the Midwest my whole life. Before I lived in Chicago, I lived in Minnesota, which was even colder. And so I've honestly been kind of sick of it. I love sunlight. I love being in a place like this. I love going on hikes. There's a lot of hiking here. You can go biking. You can go climbing. The food is incredible. It is expensive, but the food that I've had so far has really surprised me. I didn't know vegan food could be good. I've avoided vegan food for a long time. On the more practical side of things, I am trying to make a feature right now. It's a feature that could not be made in Chicago for a few reasons, and one that really should and could be made in LA. I could theoretically just work on pre-production in Chicago and then come here for a few weeks to shoot it when that time comes, but I thought it would just be a little bit better to be living here, at least for a year. And that's where the urge to LA has always come from. I was planning on doing this all the way back in 2019. It's always been the plan since film school that I would do school in Chicago and then eventually move to LA. I was actually going to do it in 2020 when I graduated, but a few things happened there. The idea of moving out here was shelved for a few years because of just COVID, and it just didn't seem like the right thing to do. I had a really great life in Chicago. As active as the film scene is in Chicago, it's actually been going up a lot more in recent years because of shit like The Bear. It hasn't been active in a way that's like necessarily benefited myself. I'm not someone that works on production. I'm not a crew member. There is certainly a film scene in Chicago. There are certainly production companies. There's people that make movies in Chicago, but LA just has a lot more options. There's a lot more resources here. Most people that live here are working in film. I definitely did not move here thinking like, oh, once I move to LA, I'm definitely gonna get that movie made. It's gonna happen, guaranteed. That is a ridiculous and weird basket to put all of your eggs into. If you're looking to get on film sets and get into production that way, LA maybe isn't the best place to be. You can make connections anywhere. Chicago is a perfectly fine place to do that. But as an influencer who also wants to direct and get this feature made, there just weren't as many opportunities going on in Chicago compared to LA. I've met a ton of people before even moving here that are willing to make this thing happen, who are willing to help make this thing happen. And as I was mentioning before, it does happen to be a place that I want to live in. I think it's a fun place to live in. There's the quality of life is pretty high here. The prices are too. And I've been kind of at an age where it's like the longer I stayed in Chicago, the harder it would be to move to LA. The harder it would be to make a major change in your life like this. So I thought, let's give it the old college try, or more like the 27-year-old man try. Let's go for it. And to be honest, I've really enjoyed myself here so far. I think it's a really incredible city. I've met so many people. I've had so much good food. I'm overwhelmed by how much there is to do here. I'm pretty happy. Let's talk a little bit about how to move here, what I did to move here. It's different for everybody. There are certainly very cheap ways of moving across the country, but it's honestly going to cost you a lot regardless. The best way to do this, in my opinion, is doing the drive. Depending on where you're coming from, I came from the Midwest. The drive really is not that bad. It's always really scared me, the idea of driving across the country to go to LA, but it was like very doable, to be honest. The only part that really got to me was the tail end, driving through the desert. That was kind of mind-numbing. More mind-numbing than like Nebraska, which surprised me. We kind of speed ran the drive. I don't entirely recommend that. I'll talk about that in a second, but we did Chicago to Omaha, Omaha to Grand Junction, Colorado, Grand Junction to Palm Springs to LA. We did that little like short spurt in the end there because I wanted to not stay at an Airbnb when we got to LA. I wanted to drive in early and then move in that day and then have a place to sleep by the time night rolled around. My reviews of the towns we stayed in: Omaha was better than I thought it would be. It reminded me a lot of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Places that get shit on by the rest of the country often, like Nebraska, like Iowa, they do have a lot of pride in their cities. Like, people from Omaha seem to really love it there. They seem to like want to make the most out of what is there. I can't really speak on the entire Omaha experience. I was there for less than, I think, 12 hours. And it was raining. So it looked kind of disgusting, but it wasn't that bad. I thought it was going to be a lot more depressing. Indianapolis is depressing. I hate Indianapolis, but that was not part of this trip. Moving on, Grand Junction actually was quite depressing while I'm on that. Driving through the Rockies was an incredible experience. If you ever have the opportunity to drive through them, I highly recommend it. It's really breathtaking. Incredible part of the country, I gotta say. We're very lucky to have that here. And it's kind of weird. I would say Denver is on the brink of feeling a little Midwestern because just the prairies kind of blend into all the cornfields when you're driving from Nebraska to Colorado. So you still kind of feel like you're in the Midwest in a weird way. But once you cross through the mountains, it just magically becomes the West Coast. You see canyons and shit pretty fast. This sounds really stupid, but it just, the country felt smaller weirdly by driving through it. I thought it would feel a lot bigger, but I was kind of like, wow, we're all just kind of 6 hours away from each other. But yeah, you get past the beautiful mountains and you end up in Grand Junction, which is just kind of like a, very by the books town. It reminds me of like every town I've ever been to in the middle of the country. I know Grand Junction's Colorado, but it had that like rural Utah feel, not full Mormon, but like kind of, they exist in a different society than the rest of us. I wasn't crazy about it, is I guess what I'm trying to say. I can't give like a thorough review of any of these cities, if you can't tell, because we were there for such a brief period of time, and I don't know if I would recommend that. I don't know if the 12-hour drive a day thing is all that great. You just feel really tired. I mean, if you need to get there and you want to get there as fast as possible, by all means do it. It's not that bad, but I wish I could have seen the country a bit more. I only got outside of the car a handful of times, and that is not really a way to see the country. I mean, you can see it out your window, but I do recommend doing this drive in like 6-hour spurts and staying somewhere really special and like walking around the town, getting to know the locals. To get all my big belongings out here, all my furniture, I used a Pods shipping container service where it's like they show up, they drop a shipping container on your driveway, you fill it up, and then like 14 days later it ends up where you need to be, which was super convenient. None of my shit got destroyed besides a mirror, and anything that gets destroyed in those pods isn't really on them, that's on you. You gotta kind of know how to pack it in. A service like that is fairly expensive, I have to say, but you kind of get what you pay for. The alternative is, renting a U-Haul. The rate of driving a U-Haul is probably only a little bit cheaper than doing the pod service. It was a major convenience in an already very stressful experience. No one likes moving. Moving is already as stressful as is. If you can get something like that taken care of and handled for you, it's like, I think it's worth it, in my opinion. And that's how we did it. That's how I ended up here in LA. I'm still unpacking. That's probably going to take a million years to do, but I'm here and I'm really enjoying it so far. Does it feel like a questionable choice? For sure. Again, I don't believe in anything being like a perfect choice. I think this certainly comes with its own cons. It hurts to be this far away from so many people that I love and care about. It's certainly a big change. It's certainly a bit more expensive, but it is a very special place to live. Like, I've only been here for like 4 days, and I ran into Daniel Scheinert, the tall, nerdy one from Everything Everywhere. He was at the local cafe, and I was like, damn, this is just, I guess, where I live now. And I don't know, there is something really electrifying about being here. I don't know how else to describe it. When you make a stupid decision like this, there's almost like more drive to get shit done. It's like, damn, I've kind of thrown away a lot of important things in my life. I may as well make the most of it, right? And that's how we're doing. If you can't tell, I cannot fully speak on whether or not this was a good idea or not. I'm not feeling very regretful at the moment, but get back to me in like 6 months and I think I'll have a more definitive answer for you. Sometimes change is okay, is what I've learned from this. It's like that picture of the dog in the lake is going to be okay, but it's going to be different. I've had this in my head for like so many months I've had this in my head. I think change is good. I think when things don't change, you go a little crazy, you forget to look at yourself. And what I've learned through the process of moving from picking up my life and putting it somewhere else is I've really had to look at myself in that process. I know that doesn't sound like anything to you guys, but it's been a really kind of reflective time for me in a time where I haven't had to reflect like this in a while. And even if this is a huge mistake, I think whatever I've learned through this, whatever I will learn through this will be incredibly valuable and something I'll cherish. So that's what I have to say. If you're thinking about moving to LA, don't let me be the one to answer that for you, but I don't know. Why not?